Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. A very timely topic is the one we're about to cover. It is selling prepaid maintenance. And nobody better than the gentlemen who are here on the screen today. They are Tully Williams from the Nilo Group, Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln, and Neil Brennan from Vanguard Dealer Services. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
So, Tully, I figure I start today with you. Why do prepaid maintenance programs make sense, and why now, Tully?
So here's what we need to start. What business are we in? We're in repeat and referral business. And if we want to be in repeat and referral business, we must be in the maintenance business. And if you're not in the maintenance business, you're not in repeat and referral. So our goal is how do we drive more maintenance in your store? It starts in the F&I department, selling the value of prepaid maintenance. Get that relationship built in when they come in, selling recommendations we'd sell our family members, showing them the green on the inspection, showing them the video of their car, showing the value of our dealership. So they will never, ever want to leave.
Tully, is that a big part of your strategy? I mean, not just now, but looking forward into the near future.
100%. If you're going to stay in business, you must be in the maintenance business. So our job is one, do we incentivize our F&I managers to sell prepaid maintenance? Because it's not a profitable center. Yes, we do, and as you should. And the next is, do you actually have your service advisors selling prepaid maintenance to their customers? Yes, we do. Especially with some manufacturers like our BMW store, we sell 50 to 100 contracts a month in the service drive to drive that repeat and referral. The thing about prepaid is one, setting them up when they purchase the car. Two, how do you keep that live in the service drive for the life of the vehicle? Prepaid maintenance is a must.
You know, it's rare, Tully, that somebody comes in who runs a dealer organization who's come up through the fixed ops department, and that's our friend Ed Roberts in St. Augustine. Ed, why prepaid maintenance and why now?
Well, we all are chasing retention. And like Tully says, we're in a repeat and referral business. And the easiest way to have a repeat business is to make it seamless and effortless for our customers. And we can prepare them for that. Then it becomes easier for them to budget for and whatever else. And with BEVs coming along, the retention element is that much more heightened, because ultimately those cars don't need the same amount of service as an ICE vehicle. They don't have to have oil changes. So they're going to need service, but at a much less rate. And we got to find ways to make sure that we're driving them back in and giving and keeping it seamless. And for us, we capitalize on that a lot with mobile as well. That ties to it where it really becomes effortless for our customers.
And Ed, you and I were just on a segment that you did with Doug Eero from Longo Toyota. And I almost fell out of my chair when he told you and I that last month they sold 1,000 prepaid maintenance agreements at Longo Toyota on the service drive, Ed.
Absolutely. What a great mind there with Doug. But yes, selling prepaid maintenance in the service drive complements what should be happening in the finance office. We should be offering it at time of sale so we can make it seamless for our customers. And then if we don't, there's our next opportunity to do it when they come back into the service drive. And then we do that, we retain that customer in our service drive, because that contract is good at our stores, not at DiMaggio's down the road. And so then it allows them to come back into our store, and we can give them the experience that we want to give them.
Neil, you've got two of the biggest fixed ops dealers here in the country, Tully in California, Ed in Florida. Neil, you run a very large agency with Vanguard, very respected all over the United States. Neil, talk to us a little bit about, why selling prepaid maintenance and why now?
Of course, I agree with my panelists. They're very excited about the prepaid maintenance program. As like I told Ted earlier, we like to call it a retention strategy for our dealers, because retention is really what makes that dealership run. And the reason for prepaid maintenance is because it gives that dealer an opportunity to do the lube oil and filters and the tire rotations that generally goes to a Jiffy Lube down the corner, one of the little gas stations, and it gives the dealership an opportunity to get those customers in for, free upsells to customers they would never get a chance to if they didn't have that prepaid maintenance. Those customers would be going somewhere else to get their work done. And for me, why now more than ever is because we all know there's no inventory. Dealers have no new car inventory. For years, the gold standard for a dealer was to do one new for one used, right? And we know we do a great job on those new cars in the first 4 years, as we talked about earlier, Tully. It's easy to get those customers in, but that gold standard at one for one, most dealers are probably 0.5 to 0.75, according to NADA, used to new, right? So you didn't have as many used cars to sell. Now, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year if it was 2 used for every 1 new. And we know that those used cars, dealerships, the national average is 70% of those customers will go to a different service facility to keep their cars serviced. Where if you were offering those used car customers a prepaid maintenance from the dealership, you'd have those, if you're a Chrysler store selling Mercedes or Jaguars, you're selling any car you can get your hands on. So it's more important now than ever that a dealership has that retention strategy or that program in place for those used cars that they're selling and probably will be selling, for the next year or so before those new car inventories really get back to where they should be.
It's a great points, Neil. And Tully, talking a little bit about, some dealers have reported already, decline in, number of ROs going in. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't really count ROs as much. I count hours, but my thing is I count customers. I count retention. Ed's spot on. We're in the repeat and referral, the retention number. If you chase any number at your store, chase hours, but chase retention. Because if your retention number is dropping, you have a serious problem. You know what? We have a struggle where we're not going to have as many new cars out there. But you know what? A used car is a new car to somebody else. I'll take every one of those. If you're thinking about retention every day, if you're thinking about your long-term every day, that's where prepaid maintenance fits right into retention so well. It doesn't fit into, when you're looking at service contracts or whatever else you're selling, but maintenance fits in. Are you looking to see your customer at least once a year? Most of our brands that we have at the Needle Company are once a year. I'm okay with once a year. I just don't want them to go anywhere else. If your retention number is not 70 plus, you have a serious problem at your store. When you look back at, go back 5-10 years ago, 50% was like, oh my God, you're 50%. 50% don't work anymore. Their stores even better than 70. Our target is 70 plus per stores, and we achieve those at some of our stores right today, and we work on that number every month.
Wow. Neil, I think that you're smart in calling it a customer retention strategy because it is. There's a lot of benefits in doing that. And Neil, maybe the margin is not as big on a prepaid maintenance as it is on some other products. But like Tully mentioned, we're getting the customer back, and that's key.
Listen, our game plan recently has been to sit with dealers and fixed ops managers and not convince them, but show them why prepaid maintenance and preloading a 1 or 2 year maintenance on the hood of every car is less than it's going to cost them to advertise and pull a customer in, right? You're going to get the parts and service back in your service department. All you're paying is a small admin fee, right? So why don't you preload that 1 or 2 year on every car that goes over the curb, and then have an F&I department that upsells 3, 4, and 5 years, and make sure that they are getting incentivized for selling it, and make sure it becomes part of their pay plan. So you're not just giving away those first 2 years, but you're following up with 3, 4, and 5 year programs, which is really going to make customers for life for that dealer. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to get customers for life. The only way you're going to do that is to have that customer coming into your dealership once or twice a year. Once you get them for 30 months plus, and they've come in there, that becomes a habit. Now, once that becomes a habit for that customer, they're coming back to your dealership. And when they come back to your dealership, they're going to buy a car from you, and the car needs to be replaced. You're going to be able to get that car in on trade-in. So it ties so much more than just parts and service. It helps them sell more cars and keep the customers for life.
Yeah. Amen. Ed, you've got some gentlemen here, and Tully, I'm thinking especially, that have brought service and sales together. And Ed, you've come up through the fixed ops business. So I know your dealership has the right mindset because Ed Roberts has the right mindset on this.
Well, let's talk about that and bring up a few dot points that really talks about the long game. And we're always trying to conquest new customers, but the best form of conquest is retention. Retain the ones that we have. When we do that, conquest becomes easier. But how do we do that? How do we retain them? Well, one, you have to be in for the long game, but two, you got to protect the brand image. And when you can protect the brand image and not send your customer down the road for somebody else to work on it, then it becomes easier to keep that customer. It becomes easier to retain them. It's just like going to In-N-Out Burger or Burger King and asking them to cook a steak. They have all the equipment back there to do it, but it's not what they do. So they have the things to be able to do it, and they could work their way through it if they needed to. It's the same way we send our customers somewhere else for them to have their vehicle service. They have the equipment to do it, but nobody knows that vehicle better than we do. So when we can put the right tools out that it brings them back into our store, then we do the right things at our store. We protect the brand image, and we protect the brand image, then we've retained that customer, and that makes conquesting that much easier.
Wow. Tully, just some of your thoughts.
Conquesting that is spot on, Mr. Ed. But you also think about this, is that if we keep that customer happy, guess what he does? He tells his friends and family to come back in and buy a car or service at our store. So one is that you've got to make sure that your retention, your CSI, your store is spot on, because the best advertising is free is when they tell their friends and family, oh, I bought my BMW from Nilo BMW or my Ford from Bozark Ford. That is the best advertising you can ever have. And how does it start? Getting those customers in the service drive and make them happy. That is where it starts. Does your service advisors realize how important every customer is? Even if there's a line a mile out, how important is every one of those customers? You have to drive that message, and it starts at the top. And God bless Ed, he's at the top, so he's making sure it happens. But does everybody at your store, from the general manager to the dealer down, understand that retention is king? Not today's sale, it's everybody's sale. It is the long-term commitment of your store to win. That's the reason why prepaid maintenance fits right in.
Tully, EVs are here. I know you're doing a lot in California. Ed, you're doing quite a bit as well. Does this fit into the strategy, with, recognizing, that EVs are here to stay?
It's even worse for the EVs. As Ed said previously, is that we do not have an oil change on an EV, right? And the issue is customers think that they don't have to do anything for that EV car. Well, I just plug it in, I drive it until it breaks, and I get a new battery. That is not the case. There's tire rotations, there's cabin filters, there's wiper blades. Getting that education out to show that we are your service center. You do not want to have someone practicing on a battery on your car. You need to get your car factory trained, serviced at the dealership. EV is even more important than an ICE car.
And Ed?
He's exactly right. The EVs, we will see a frequency rate of probably 50% of what ICE are. And I say probably because we don't know. They're not widespread out there yet. But from what they need for service, it's going to be half the rate. And if you look at that from what your frequency rate is of the core brand with ICE, we see them anywhere from 1.8 to 2.1 times a year. So let's cut that in half and say it's less than once a year or just over once a year. And we have to build a package, prepaid, preferably, that brings them back in for that alignment, for the tires, for the things that Tully just mentioned. I don't need to re-mention them, but those are things that we need to make sure that we're bringing, not just an annual inspection, but give them value of what, because obviously if we reduce rolling resistance, we increase range. And so that's where the alignment comes into play. And we've gotten away from some of those things, but it's key. BEVs are going to eat through tires because of the extreme amount of torque that they have, and the weight of the vehicle. And the easier it can roll frictionless, or reduce as much friction as possible, the more range it's going to have, and the longer those tires are going to last. But we have to drive that home to make sure our customer understands that, yes, it needs less service, but it still needs service.
Neil, this sounds like a conversation we got to be having with every dealer all over the country.
We haven't caught up quite yet in the East Coast area, New Jersey, New York. Guys here want to drive gasoline cars, but we know it's coming. And listen, the only thing different between an electric car and a gas-powered engine is the oil change. Really, everything else has to be done. cars still have to be maintained. So, and you want to get those customers into your dealership, whether it's gas, electric, any type of vehicle, you want them to become part of your ecosystem, right? And once they get into your ecosystem, you don't want to let them out of that ecosystem. So the best way to do that is to get them on a prepaid maintenance program. And I'll keep going back to preloading these programs at dealerships because, Ed, you're a dealer. You know what it costs to bring a customer in to sell them a car, right? I mean, their numbers range all over the place, probably somewhere in the mid 600s to actually bring a customer in to sell them a car, usually to give it away. A prepaid maintenance program for 2 years, you're talking like $40 in admin, and then the rest of the money's coming back to your dealership. So why wouldn't a dealer want to give every customer that buys a car a reason to come back there for 1, 2? We have some that do 3 years, because the first 3 years is when you're going to make that customer your customer and make it a habit for them coming into your dealership. So we have Ted Ings come in and train them how to do that. It's a home run for everybody.
Love it. Love it. Everybody, great conversation, super timely. I want to thank Tully Williams. I want to thank Ed Roberts. And I want to thank Neil Brennan from Vanguard Dealer Services for being here today, the leader in the industry. Everyone, thank you so much on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And this is just the beginning of this conversation.
Thanks, Tully. Thanks, Ed. Pleasure meeting you guys.
You as well. Happy
Talk to you
Thanksgiving.
soon.
Tully, Ed, and Neil here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.